Welcome to the Rational Optimist Podcast 50 times. That's how much more computing power OpenAI's new O3 model needs compared to its previous version. We're going to need a lot more computer chips, aren't we?
A lot more computer chips. So yeah, just to set the stage here, just before Christmas, ChatGPT creator OpenAI, they came out with a new AI model, O3. And basically, one of my best tips for people using AI has been to tell it, when you give it a request and then tell it to think about the problem. And it basically, it's like giving a human more time to mull over a problem, right? Basically, the model O3, it comes with this superpower equipped. It thinks before answering, and the more it thinks, we've discovered with this model, the more it thinks, the smarter it gets. So on a competitive programming exam, O3 scored in the top 175 programmers in the world. I actually heard the founder of Devon, the AI coding tool, say, within a year, AI will be the best programmer in the world and they won't even be close. And then it also took some general kind of intelligence exams, and it beat PhDs who had full access to the internet. It beat them at their own game. So this is something quite remarkable that I don't think people are really aware of, right? I think if you poll people on the street, they'd be like, maybe they'd say, what the hell is ChatGPT? They'd certainly say, what the hell is O3?
So this is specifically designed for deep work, deep tasks. Was that right?
Yes. It's important to point out, I think we talked about Google's quantum chip a few weeks ago as well. It's important to point out with these things, they're somewhat specialized. It's not like O3 is better at every single task in every single way. This is very much designed at scientific research or hard math problems, or figuring out new physics theorems and all these very deep technical things. It's not, hey, tell me who was the last 10 presidents of America or whatever. Different models, different tasks.
Would you say OpenAI has reclaimed the throne from Claude? Like, is it the new best AI tool, or does Claude still have it for you?
So I would encourage everyone to type into or Perplexity or Google, whatever. There's LLM chatbot arena, and it's basically this website that compares the different AI models. Right now, topping that leaderboard is a new experimental model from Google. Okay, it's an only experimental model. It's still in beta mode, and it just point out O3, this model that we're talking about, it's not yet released. I've actually been spending a ton of time with different models. For me, for writing, for editing, for sourcing ideas, Claude is still the best. But I think these models are now a step above. You can think about them like, the way there's like iPhone generations or generations of cars or whatever. We're now moving into what I would call the third generation or the fourth generation of models, these reasoning models that think. But for simple everyday tasks, I don't think they're still, I think Claude is still basically better. But if you're working on science or math or physics problems or deep research, as you said, these are the way to go.
I had dueling AIs this morning. I was working on this investment research project. The details aren't important, but so I have my laptop screen in the middle, and I have a big screen over here and a big screen over here. I had Claude over here. I had ChatGPT over here. Paid version of both. I pay each one $20 a month, and I was asking them the same questions. And sometimes Claude would do better. Sometimes ChatGPT would do better. I was trying to find patterns, but it seemed like it was kind of random which one was better at what.
I mean, I think this is like your friends. It's basically the friend I talk to about finances is not the friend I talk to about comedy, is not the friend who I talk to about sports. I don't think there will be one AI to rule them all. It's kind of incredible, right? They're largely trained on the same data. They have slightly different algorithms, which makes them better for different things. I mean, I will point out that, so we're talking about O3. Its predecessor, O1, was also incredible, and you can access that today as part of OpenAI's $200 a month plan. And you think $200 a month, that's a bit steep. It's a 10x increase from what we have today. If I told you could access Digital God for $20,000 a month, you would pay that. So I think we're going to see much, much higher prices. This is only the beginning. I haven't tried out O1 Pro myself, but I'm going to, because as I said, I will be more than willing to pay $200 a month if it gives me. You just think about what you have to, again, the investment research project I think you might have talked about it on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. That thing that you're doing right now, it's not that it did 2x or 3x better. You couldn't do it before. It was worth way more than $200 to you, right? So yeah, I think these things are pretty incredible, and we're going to see lots of innovation.
Yeah, seeing how useful they are and how much money they can save you. I think there will be AI models that are like $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month, maybe even more than that, because they're so productive and they save you from having to hire a coder or an editor or a graphic designer. It's a no-brainer in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting. So I think ChatGPT is built into the latest iPhone. Actually, do you know what? My wife's mother got us an Alexa for Christmas, an Echo. It's crazy how bad Alexa is compared to the voice mode on ChatGPT or whatever. I mean, ChatGPT should launch an Alexa competitor, or I guess it's built into the iPhone now, and that just beats all those voice things. But yeah, the latest iPhone, when you have that built into your phone, when it memorizes all your emails and everything that your phone sees and you take in, and it can kind of spit out, hey, here's the 5 emails that you need to see today, here's what you need to do today, or here's some insights that I noticed. That's going to be a big leap. I think you and I are going out of our way to use AI today. Soon it's just going to come to us and be in everything.
Yeah, I do think we're in a little bit of a Goldilocks period right now, where if anyone listening out there, you put in the work and you have the determination to learn how to use the AIs, you can gain such an advantage in your career or your investing or whatever. Eventually, it's just going to become everybody does it. In 5 years down the road, it's just going to be integrated into everything and it won't be an advantage anymore. But right now, it's new and there's a significant learning curve. So you have to really want to learn. But if you do, there's so much to get out of it.
I've been thinking a lot about prompting, and essentially everything that I look at is what questions you ask the AI and how you ask them. It really matters. Like, it can be the difference between getting an answer or getting a result that's just garbage that you can't use, and getting something that saves you hours or days of work. And one theory is that the AI will get so good that you won't need to know how to prompt. I'm not sure that's the case yet, and won't be the case for some time. So I think there is still an advantage to learning how it works. It's something it's difficult to write about, because what I use it for is not what you use it for. But if people want to read about how to use AI and tips, please let us know, because it is something that I'm interested in writing about. And yeah, I think it's, of all the disruptions that we talk about, of all the breakthroughs that we talk about, space, really exciting, nuclear, supersonic, all these things, amazing. You can't actually use any of them unless you go start a business. Whereas AI is completely different. You can go on, log on and start using this amazing tool. So yeah.
It's wild to think ChatGPT only came out 2 years and 2 months ago, and how fast everything's advanced since then. That's a good segue though into the main thing we wanted to talk about today, and that's called WTF happened in 2024. So this is your thesis. I'll set the stage for you a little bit and then let you say your thesis. But there's in the investing world, there's a there's a thing called WTF happened in 1971. And it's there's a website about it, and it's kind of a known thing where in 1971, something went wrong with the global economy. Lots of bad stuff started happening, like inflation took off, the price of housing compared to the average incomes took off, the national debt took off. And it's not just financial, it's like political polarization started to get really bad. Administrators started to take over the U.S. healthcare system. And if you want to see the charts, visit WTFhappened1971.com. There's dozens of charts on that website. And to the extent that website gives an explanation, and I think like the conventional wisdom for what went wrong in 1971 is that Richard Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard. And so politicians were no longer were tethered to reality and how much money they borrowed and created. And it just made the financial system go haywire and had all sorts of bad consequences. Your thesis is that something similar but reverse is happening in 2024 and 2025.
Yeah, so very quickly going to touch on the reason. It's actually it's one of my favorite websites on the internet. It gets the reason, it basically hints at the reason that's wrong. It's not the gold standard. Also gets the year wrong. It was 1973, and the cause for a lot of our the productivity slowdown, the economic growth slowdown, all these trends that you talked about was actually energy prices. The 1973 oil shock, energy got expensive overnight, but even worse, it went from 50 years of reliable energy prices to unpredictable. So how can you plan for the future if you don't know how much things are going to cost you? Why this matters for what we're talking about here is, well, I'll hand it over to my friend Matt Ridley, who's the godfather of rational optimism. So he said, it is commonplace today to say that innovation is speeding up, but just like much of conventional wisdom, it is wrong. With the exception of the digital industry, the West is experiencing an innovation famine. And this is, again, you can look at, we've closed more nuclear power plants than we've opened this century. We haven't built a single major airport in 30 years, as is America. And airplanes fly at the same speeds as they did in the 1950s. Good news, I'm just after hitting you with a mountain of bad news. The good news is that all changed in 2024. The breakthroughs that happened last year, I've been writing about them, and we're going to have a multi-part series on this in the Rational Optimist Story. It signals we've gone from an innovation famine to an innovation feast.
Right. In what ways?
Okay, so I mean, there's 5 frontiers, I guess, but I think you want to dig into the transportation this year, right? Or this podcast.
Yeah, I think first let's show the chart of energy usage in the United States, and you can see, we saw the price of oil before, but you can see the actual usage of energy in the United States. For the history of the U.S., prior to 1973, it rose 2% per year, right? Peaked in 1973, started to decline and never recovered. And conservationists, environmentalists look at that and they say, good, we're doing more with less. That's what we should be doing. But we say no. We say we should be using as much energy as possible, efficiently, of course, but we need to be using more energy. And the reason that our economy became so digitized, the reason that our biggest companies are Apple and Microsoft and Google and software companies that don't make stuff, as opposed to the biggest companies in the 70s, which were what, like Exxon, what else?
It was Exxon, let me see. Pull it up here. IBM, AT&T, General Motors, Kodak, Exxon, Sears, Texaco, Xerox, General Electric, and Gulf Oil.
Yeah, so cars, rockets,
oil,
stuff. So we built stuff. So the thesis is that we went away from building stuff because it takes a lot of energy to build stuff, and it doesn't take a lot of energy to build software companies. And so we got this massive boom in digital innovation, and the physical world stagnated. And you're saying that changed. I agree with you. To me, there's no greater example of physical innovation, the burst of physical innovation we're experiencing now, than in transportation. Obviously, humans went from horses to steam engines to planes and personal automobiles, and then the progress just kind of stopped over the last 50 years. You might say, well, if transportation got as good as it can get, where are we going to go from here? But there's a lot of places we can go, as 2024 is demonstrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that my great-grandparents grew up with the horse and buggy and got to live to see a man walk on the moon. Like, that's incredible. Or I think between the Wright brothers' first flights and the first jet engine was 37 years. That's like going from, I don't know, from the first airplane in the 90s or the first airplane in the late 80s to having a jet engine now. That's incredible growth. Transportation got as good as it got, maybe, but I guess the big thing is we've gone backwards over the past 50 years, right? So maybe we start with jets. So it now takes, in the 1970s with supersonic jets, we were crossing the Atlantic in 3 hours. Now it takes 7 hours because we basically banned supersonic flight over the land. 2024, startups like Boom Aerospace are bringing that back. So successfully completed 10 test flights last year, Boom Aerospace did, and during its most recent test flight in December, achieved a speed of 730 miles an hour. It's faster than any Boeing or Airbus in the sky today, and hopefully in a couple of years it's going to roll out its commercial jet. We're going to be flying at 1,300 miles an hour. It's going to cut the time it takes to cross the Atlantic by more than half. No more red-eye flights crossing the Atlantic. glorious.
So what's that, like 3 hours from New York to London now?
3 hours, under 3 hours. And I mean, that's just like the first batch. Why can we not even go even faster? I remember we need to revive the spirit of Ronald Reagan, who I think in the mid 80s proposed something called the Orient Express, which would take you from LA to Tokyo in 2 hours. Or DC to Tokyo in 2 hours. It was like flying at Mach 25 or something like that. But yeah, that's the spirit we need, to dream big.
A common rebuttal to this is like, okay, you're going to save some rich guys 3 hours crossing the Atlantic. Who cares? It's not just about saving time, though. It's like people will go places that they would not go before if they can get there faster. Like, I've never been to Tokyo because a lot of reasons, but I don't want to take a 20-hour flight. And like, if it only took 8 hours to get there, I'd probably go to Tokyo. And like, you think about how, I don't know, back in the day, you only went places that train lines serviced because it was the only way to get anywhere. And then we got personal automobiles and people could go almost anywhere. And that rewired the whole economy. That's what, that's the story of how Walmarts were created. We won't get into that now, but it's not just quicker. It opens up lots more possibilities for people to do things they couldn't do before when you can get places faster.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember reading a book, and Woodrow Wilson had to, the most powerful, former US president, the most powerful man, had to cross the Atlantic by ship sometimes. Like, if we didn't have jet engines, you wouldn't have the modern business world. So what would be possible if you could go, again, you could go to Tokyo in 5 hours or whatever. Yeah, it wouldn't just be weekends in Tokyo. It would be all these business things that you can't do today. It would be all these...
I could come visit you in Abu Dhabi.
There you go. You're going to do that anyway. But it would be all these business things that you can't even think about today, which means job opportunities. You know, it's kind of always impossible to predict the future and what jobs or what businesses will open up because you make something better, faster, cheaper.
Did you see, off topic a little bit, but did you see that Europe is basically enforcing a standard on USB chargers now? You have to use USB-C chargers.
Listen. So I've been thinking we're the rational optimist, right? But I'm a rational pessimist on Europe. Again, off topic. If people want to read about this, I will happily write about it. But the strangest thing so I'm big time guy. Time is the most valuable resource, the only resource that you can't get back. In Europe now, I don't know if anyone's seen, we have these bottle caps that don't detach from the bottle. If they put a tax on it, it makes you bring the bottle back. Over Christmas, going to the grocery store, they have these bottle banks that you throw the bottles in. Over Christmas, going to the grocery store, there was a line that you'd swear to God was people bringing their kids to Santa. People lined up with bags of cans and bottles to go recycle them. What a waste of time. And then first of all, you're regulating self-driving cars out of existence. You're regulating AI out of existence. And I mean, supersonic stuff, all these type of things. Crazy.
The USB, you're right. And the USB-C thing is an example of a regulation that, like, if you only think about it for 2 seconds, it sounds smart. Because it's like, oh no, there's these 10 different types of connectors. What if we just standardize it and nobody had to worry about that again? But it freezes innovation in place. Like, there's been a lot of progress in USB connectors, right? This freezes it, and now it's really hard to progress past USB-C to whatever the next cool thing will be. And that's basically what happened to supersonic flight too.
We'll leave the European pessimism here, but the former head of AI regulation for the European Commission just set up a startup to advise AI companies how to get around the laws he set up. What a I don't know, weird incentives. Yeah. But back to the innovation beacon that is America. So within the transportation, it's not just supersonic. It's not just cruising in the sky. I think they fly at 60,000 feet, double the kind of altitude of normal planes, but also on the ground. So I was in San Francisco back in the start of November, took my first ever self-driving car Waymo ride. It was incredible, truly incredible, because in that, so first of all, before I got into it, I heard this woman's the car zipped down, and I heard a woman saying to her child, "Oh, did you see those cars that drive themselves? There's no one in the driver's seat." And I was just bam, in that moment, the future is in your face. You can feel the innovation, you can feel how just amazing tech progress is, and I think these are really important for the next decade.
What's the inside of that thing like? Is it just like the inside of a regular car?
It was an I-Pace Jaguar, so it was nice. It felt like a new car, just leather seats. So obviously you get in, and there's no one sitting at the steering wheel, and it's just there's a little a little kind of screen and a little iPad thing in the back, and it says like, "Hey Stephen, going to wherever your destination is. We'll do all the driving. It may feel futuristic. Sit back and relax or whatever." So it was quite incredible to sit in the back and just see the steering wheel change itself, change directions.
So airplanes getting faster, self-driving cars coming online, which is going to save tens of thousands of lives, not to mention a whole host of other benefits. Drones are another form of transportation, not of people, but of stuff, that is finally having a breakout moment in 2024. So the U.S. government finally let Amazon and Google's drone divisions, they're allowed to fly their drones past line of sight, which is the major regulation that's been holding the industry back in the U.S. and has basically handed it over to China. They finally are allowing Amazon and Google to do this, and so drone deliveries are starting to happen in a couple cities around the U.S.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a company called Zipline based in California. It's working with the Cleveland Clinic, delivering medicines for people. It's flying sweet green salads to customers all over America. In parts of Texas and California, Amazon has test markets. It's delivering parcels, thousands of items to customers in under 30 minutes. Google's drone division Wing, it's delivered more than 30,000 parcels this year for Walmart to customers. So this stuff is really taken off. And I think, so have you ever flown a drone?
No.
No, I need to get a drone because I think, as the whole recent New Jersey stuff, the drone sightings in New Jersey, I feel like people aren't prepared for what comes next. I feel like these drones are going to be as common as smartphones in a couple of years. They're just going to be everywhere, doing everything. Actually, in Texas, Dallas is like ground zero for drone innovation right now. And multiple drone companies have gotten together and they've created an air traffic system for drones. So until recently, if you're Amazon and I'm Google, we have to, and we're making a drone delivery in the same vicinity, we have to ring each other to make sure we don't bump into each other. Now we've designed this cool air traffic system. So I think this stuff the rails have been knocked down and it's going to move fast now.
All right, let's put a picture of this flying car on the screen. This is like a drone that can carry people, made by a company called Joby Aviation, publicly traded. Finally got a green light from the FAA to start testing its flying car. We should have flying cars already, and we might actually get them now, huh?
Should have flying cars already. I mean, it's amazing. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but so if you ever go to New York, take the subway, don't take a taxi because it takes like an hour to get to JFK. But they're proposing to take people from downtown to Manhattan to JFK in 7 minutes. Bliss. I think the big unlock here is better batteries. The batteries are kind of so today, and you really need better batteries to make these things go longer and make them cheaper. But it's like the poster child for all the innovation that we didn't get because energy got expensive, and I'm excited that we're moving towards that future.
It's only a matter of time until the batteries get good enough, right?
This is it. I mean, I think it's on basically every time you double the amount of batteries in the world, they get 23 or 27% better. So right now we're installing a record number of batteries year after year after year. So as you said, it is only a matter of time. And yeah, I'm excited about these ones. Don't know if I'd get in one yet. I'll let people test them first, but certainly exciting. And I mean, this company is flush with $500 million investment from Toyota, and you can bet it's not going to be the only one. So definitely exciting.
Seems like there's a lot of walls to break through here until this becomes a real thing. Like, I'm sure you've got crazy regulations to get through, the battery issue. I'm sure it costs a lot of money. We need a guy like Elon Musk in there to just like push it all through and make flying cars happen.
Yeah, the Tesla flying car would definitely it'd be a seller. It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time. But definitely, like, I mean, the drones are here, the robo taxis are here, the flying cars, the air taxis. I'll still probably say by the end of the decade they're not going to be live, but exciting nonetheless.
And the mother of all transportation revolutions, of course, was rockets. We're going to space again.
Going to space again. So SpaceX has single-handedly revived the space economy, right? I mean, back in 2011, NASA shut down the space shuttle program. You know what we had to do to go to the International Space Station? Beg Russia for a spare seat on its rocket. And now, every 2.3 days, in 2024, a SpaceX rocket blasted off from somewhere in America. Last year, SpaceX launched more rockets into space than NASA did in its entire 30-year history of the space shuttle program. Just incredible.
You think government space travel is over? Is it going to be all private companies now?
So Matt Ridley predicted this back in 2010 when, there was no space companies really, private space companies, right, which was very prescient. I don't think the US government it's hard to say what Russia and China will do. I don't think the US government will ever build or design a rocket again. SpaceX is the new NASA. SpaceX is the new shuttle program. It's the only thing that matters for space. And that's evidenced by, I'll show you this chart of the annual number of objects launched into space. You can see it's absolutely going vertical. SpaceX accounts for 95% plus of this. It really is the only game in town. And now, might I add, the most valuable private company in the world, $350 billion in its latest funding round.
Now we're going back to the moon. You had that as a little throwaway line in one of your recent diaries that I edited. I was like, what? We're going back to the moon? Apparently, NASA is partnering with SpaceX to send humans back to the moon by 2027. It's called Project Artemis.
Yes. So the shuttle the spacecraft that they want to use is Starship, which, people might have seen last year. SpaceX caught this giant skyscraper-sized rocket with a pair of chopstick arms. That is the spacecraft that NASA wants to use to bring humans back to the moon. Might I add, we're talking about WTF happened in 2024. We didn't walk on the moon last year, but we did get the first private spacecraft landing on the moon. The American spacecraft landing on the moon since 1972 was a company out of Texas.
Mm-hmm. Did not know that.
Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. A lot happened last year. You have companies putting giant mirrors in space that beam down sunlight on demand to Earth. You have Varda making drug factories in space, and of course all these things come from the fact that we've slashed the cost to go to space by, what was it, 95% over the past decade or so?
Yeah. The possibilities are endless. I think we're going to see a booming space economy in the next couple of years here.
And even I think, what would you say to people that say, why does space matter? Because that's one of the pushbacks, right? Like, why are we spending all this money going into the great beyond?
There's a lot of stuff you can do in space that you can't do on Earth. Like, there's certain drugs that can get manufactured in space because of zero gravity. We've talked in the past about human organs can be made in space because there's no gravity, so they don't collapse under their own weight like they do on Earth. And then there's the more like ambitious Elon Musk type stuff. Like, he wants to give humanity another planet that we can live on, because who knows what might happen to Earth in the future. So that's probably going to happen beyond when you and I are alive. But I think it's a laudable goal to make humanity an interplanetary species. Yeah.
And I think it's just so ambitious that it rubs off on people. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs working in trying to solve hard problems in the real world, the transportation revolution or whatever it is, are inspired by what Elon is doing and said, well, if Elon can catch an 11 million pound rocket with a pair of chopsticks, well, what can I do? It's making people stand up and question it. I also think you don't just have this giant rocket spaceship, you don't have just the giant rocket. You also have, again, SpaceX rockets, normal Falcon 9 rockets and the Falcon Heavy taking off every 2 or 3 days. I feel like this is like the new the new father-son bonding moment. I feel like it's the spectacle that you can go. It's the new football game that you can go to and you can both marvel at how amazing it is. And it's just inspiring. It's
also the only way we're going to climb up the Kardashev scale and start getting energy. Earth has enough energy for us for a while, but if we're ever going to really be an interplanetary species, we have to figure out how to capture energy from stars. And I'm blanking on the name of the device, but the Kardashev scale is there's basically 3 types of civilizations. I'm sure you know this, but for the audience, like type 1 is they just harvest the energy of their own planet. Type 2, they harvest the energy of a star, and there's like a theoretical device you can put around a star, like a circle that captures all the energy of the star. And type 3 captures the energy of entire galaxies. So if we're ever gonna, figure out how to capture the energy of a star directly, we got to get to space.
Yes. So important. The fact that you're even mentioning something like this just makes me want to go out and try to do it. And again, that's just so important because it just gets ambitious people working on really hard problems. And to the space doubters, I would say the number of innovations that we got out of the first space race. So it was like GPS, it was microwavable meals, not a fan myself. It was solar power, it was computer chips. All these type of things came as a byproduct of trying to put a man on the moon. So imagine all the incredible things that we don't know about today that are going to come out of Elon and co trying to get a civilization on Mars.
It's so much better too that it's a private individual doing this, because when it's the government, it's like, really, you're going to spend $10 billion to get to space when our bridges are crumbling and like people are growing hungry? You can make the argument that the government should not spend money on that, but when it's one rich guy, one ambitious rich genius with his own money, and he's making a profit on doing it. I don't know if SpaceX is profitable yet, but it's got a lot of revenue, and I think it will be profitable eventually. If he's making a profit while doing it, it's additive to the economy rather than subtractive like government spending on it would be.
Yeah, quite incredible the amount of good paying jobs that SpaceX has created. And then just the offshoots of that. One of the nuclear startups, I remember, I think it could have been Radiant. They started that company because they realized, the only way to power civilization on Mars is to have portable nuclear reactors. Boom. A beautiful new startup is born. So there will be just so many little baby SpaceXs in other industries.
I'm always amazed how everything comes back to energy.
Everything comes back to energy. It's the bedrock of innovation. It's the reason why we had the productivity and economic slowdown post 1973. It's the reason why the last year was the start of the innovation feast, because you look at, we have a nuclear energy renaissance, solar's rolling out really fast, fracking, the unsung hero of the energy renaissance, and I think specifically America is on track for a great 20 or 30 years ahead. Not so much Europe, which is still stuck in the energy beggar, energy scarcity mindset.
You got a dose of optimism for us today?
I do. So have two actually. So I pulled a chart from The Rise and Fall of American Growth, a book by Robert J. Gordon, and we were just talking about declining prices and the power of innovation. So this chart shows the price of per minute of a phone call. One is from New York to San Francisco, one is from New York to London, and you can see it's declined from about $700 to essentially free today. I mean, even when my aunt was living in Australia 20 years ago, she would have to run outside to the payphone with quarters in her hand and put them in. And now you get free high definition video calls from the comfort of your bed. The second one was a chart posted by Jonah Norberg, who is the author of The Capitalist Manifesto, who I met in San Francisco recently. Great guy. And he shows progress in the 21st century. And you can see blue line extreme poverty, red line child mortality, and the green line illiteracy have all steadily declined over the past 25 years. We're now 25 years into the 24th century, so great long-term trends, and long may they continue. All
right, everybody, spread that optimism. 2025 is going to be our year. Viewers, you can boost our optimism by hitting the subscribe button, ringing that bell, and leaving us a comment. This greatly helps our channel grow. We appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great 2025, guys.